month, 3 US scientists deployed satellite tracking tags on 9 humpback whales in the waters off Rarotonga, with the aim of gaining vital information about the behaviour and migration patterns of these endangered mammals. This was only the second time in history tracking tags have been deployed on humpback whales in the Cook Islands. The scientists, University of Canterbury lecturer Dr. Travis Horton, Director of the Centre for Cetacean Research and Conservation, Nan Hauser, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Alex Cervini were in Rarotonga earlier this month deploying the tags. Today I'm joined with one of the scientists, Dr. Travis Horton. Travis, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's great to be here, Jamila.
Can you start by giving us an overview of how the tagging went in Rarotonga and why you were doing it?
Yeah, thanks. It was a tremendous success. We actually deployed more tags than we went in with. We actually went into the research campaign with 7 tags in hand, and the kind donations from people in Rarotonga and across the world in the conservation community allowed us to have 10 tags in total. We were able to deploy 9 of them, and we've got 7 migrating whales right now.
Okay, awesome. So how did you become involved in this project? You know, when did you become interested in whales?
Yeah, it's a great question because I'm actually a geologist, and you might, wow, this guy's lost the plot. He's a geologist studying whales, but the connection there is modern science is really making advances in the space in between the traditional disciplines.
Yeah.
So when I learned that whales and other animals might be using the magnetic field to orientate, I thought, hey, you know, rocks give a magnetic field, particularly rocks associated with Pacific Islands, the basalts and the things that make up Hawaii. They also make up the Cook Islands. So by using my knowledge as a geologist about the magnetic field and magnetic field properties, and looking at how animals move through magnetic fields, we hope to gain better understandings of how they're navigating during their movements.
Okay, so how did you end up connecting with this particular whale tracking project?
Yeah, so it was through the internet. Back in 2007, Nan Hauser, the director of the Whale Center there on Cook Islands, she had 7 tags that were getting updated every day on the internet, and it was funded by Greenpeace, and it was a thing called the Great Whale Trail. You can still go see it online. And I was watching the whales every day, seeing what they were doing, and I was also looking at the magnetic fields that they were moving through. So not just looking at lat long space, but actually looking at the magnetic field, and I was seeing patterns. So that really kind of inspired me to contact Nan.
Yeah.
And she thought, yeah, let's do this. This is awesome. Let's look at the whale movements from a geologist perspective. And that led to a collaboration with NOAA, and then that led to the collaboration with Instituto Aquali in Brazil. And it's just become this really international research team over the last 7 years.
Yes, totally. So you deployed 9 tracking tags in total. Congratulations. Can you explain what data you hope to glean from this project and how it would help your understanding of humpback whale migration patterns?
Yeah, so we got the 9 tags out, and it's really relevant to conservation.
Yeah.
It's relevant to science. It's actually relevant to technological innovation, and it's also relevant to our own human migrations. So the data actually can be applied and used through a number of different disciplines. So on the conservation side, these whales are endangered. They're one of the 2 endangered humpback whale populations on the planet, and we just don't know where they go.
Yeah.
So if we want to protect them in the oceans and develop marine protection areas, that's something that we need to know where to protect.
Yeah.
So finding out where they go allows us to develop better policies. On the science side, we don't know how they do it. How are they navigating across expanses of open ocean? It's basically just a sea of blue, yet they can find Rarotonga again next year.
Yeah.
So how are they doing that is kind of our key science question. On the technological innovation, there's a major push from the engineering community to try to use animal navigation techniques and apply those techniques to drone technology and GPS technology. We're trying to figure out ways to better orientate across the planet, and we're looking at animals to do that. So that's the engineering innovation side. And on the human side, one of the classic questions about New Zealand, you know, where this beautiful place that we're at right now is, you know, how did humans come here? It's the last piece of continental crust that was really settled by humans. So the ancestors to Maori arrived in New Zealand roughly 700 years ago. And the Maori oral tradition tells us that perhaps the paikia, the humpback whale, guided, if not guarded, the waka on their way from Hawaii to Aotearoa, New Zealand. So what we're actually seeing in the whale movements is they're literally island hopping.
I remember you actually mentioned that on your blog.
Yeah, it's so neat. The data are showing us that
Yeah.
the whales are going basically in straight lines from one
Yeah.
island to the next, to the next, to the next. We don't know if they come to New Zealand yet, but we're hoping that the transmitters last long enough to
Yeah.
take them all the way down here.
So on that note, can you tell us more about the tags, how long they last?
Yep.
Just any other technical information about them?
The biggest thing to say about the tags is that they are a cutting edge technology. We
Yeah.
couldn't do these kinds of things 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, 15 years ago. They link in with satellites. They give us sub-kilometer, even to potentially meter scale resolution. So they're really an amazing technological innovation. They communicate with satellites. There are 6 different satellites that they're talking with or sending signals to. And yeah, the tagging technology itself is a really technologically inspiring thing
Yeah.
in its own right.
And you mentioned before the interview that it's only looking to get better and better with the tags.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that you asked about the longevity of the tags.
Yes.
That's one of the key things that has improved over
Yeah.
the last 10 years. And previously we'd expect to get 4 to 8 weeks perhaps.
Yeah.
When Nan tagged whales in 2007 off Rarotonga, they lasted about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the average that one of these particular types of tags will last and actually send data is about 3 months, and in the
Yeah.
90 days kind of range, so 12 weeks.
Yeah.
We've effectively doubled the average length of time.
Awesome.
And we actually have one tag from Alex's work in Brazil that stayed on a whale for 315 days. And it's the only tag that captures both the southward and the northward migration of a humpback whale.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unique data.
Yeah. Awesome. So from the moment you launched the tags, you were able to track the humpback's location. Has there been anything so far that surprised you about their movements?
Things that have surprised me is, yes, there are several. One of them is they're moving in straight lines. That surprises me in that that's hard to do.
Yeah.
The ocean is moving, yet they're able to maintain constant courses. They can move in a straight line. That's one of them. The other is actually moving with constant speeds. Now that's also really interesting in that the ocean might be pushing from behind a little bit or in their face a little bit, giving them
Yeah.
a head current. So the fact that they're able to maintain speed is suggesting that they have some sort of temporal timekeeping thing.
Yeah.
The biggest insight that we've gained from this year's data are these movements between the islands. The fact that they are taking directional, constant speed movements from Rarotonga to Atsu, from Rarotonga to American Samoa, from Rarotonga to Niue. These are completely unprecedented
So they
insights.
don't know where they're going.
They might have a memory. They might be just
Yeah.
using tracks within the magnetic field. They
Yeah.
might be using gravitational anomalies associated with the rocks, but
Yeah.
they're doing something that allows
Yeah.
for really precise navigation.
Awesome. So there's quite a considerable amount of danger involved in actually tagging these whales. Had to get within a certain distance and ensure you had a clear shot. Can you describe to us what that was like?
Yeah, I had never done anything like it before in my life.
Yeah.
It was absolutely an awe-inspiring, truly awesome experience. We try to leave the whales as alone as possible. So
Yeah.
we're not always right up next to them, but when we've patterned the surfacing rate and we
Yeah.
can anticipate when and where the whales will rise up, thus put themselves in a position for us to deploy a tag safely,
Yeah.
we kind of zip in, deploy the tag, and zip back out again. So that's where the danger part comes in. There's a
Yeah.
relatively rapid movement in those last 20 meters or so
Yeah.
to get the boat in a position to safely, so you're not hurting the whale, deploy the tag. But at the same time, you're not 100% sure where the whale's really going to be.
Yeah.
So there's the potential for an interaction between the whale and the boat. We've never had any in Rarotonga, but there's one example from the Arctic where that sort of interaction did happen. Nobody was hurt, the whale wasn't hurt,
Yeah.
but there is that element of danger every time you're doing it. It's really, you get on the edge of your seat in the boat.
Yeah.
It's anxious, but also truly exciting and inspiring at the same time.
Yeah. So with the tags, does the whale, does a whale feel it when you are launching it?
Absolutely. There's no. We're all about being open and transparent with this. We're basically putting the equivalent of an earring post into the skin in the small of their back. That would be the analogy to a human if you scale the things up and down.
Yeah.
So Yeah, the same as we feel earrings getting inserted in our ears or elsewhere in your body. The whales certainly feel it. Now, one of the things that we do is we monitor the whale's behavior before we deploy the tag, and then we monitor the whale's behavior after we deploy the tags.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I observed is, yeah, some whales might flick their tail a little bit, just show that, yep, I felt that.
Yeah.
Other ones, just no response at all. You don't see any obvious physical response. So the following of the whales for about 40 minutes to at least an hour, as long as we can.
Yeah.
They're doing exactly the same things afterwards that they were doing before. And with
Okay.
GoPros and going underwater with the GoPro cameras, we can now actually film them underwater.
Yeah.
So we can actually see if the behaviors beneath the surface have changed at all. And our evidence so far is no, nothing changes.
So, and with the tags, do they eventually drop off, or do they stay on then?
Yep, so if you think about the earring post analogy again, you don't have something on the other end of it holding it in place.
Yeah.
You don't have a clasp holding it in place. So the same as our body would kind of work out or eject the foreign object, the same thing happens with the satellite transmitter tags. It's kind of like a splinter. You get a splinter in your skin, it might annoy you for a little while, but eventually your body works it, pushes it back out again, and it falls out. So that's what happens with these satellite transmitter tags. Alex is involved in a multi-year-long study in the Gulf of Maine, where they've deployed tens of transmitter tags on humpback whales off the waters of New England. And they've gone out as many days as they can, if not every day, for the last several years. And they've monitored how the whale's skin has responded. Has it swelled up? It doesn't always even swell up. What happens with the healing process? How long does it take for the whale to kind of reject the satellite transmitter? And then once the transmitter is gone, what's left? And could you actually see the scar, if you will, from where the transmitter was remaining? So we're learning more and more about how the whales do that. But yes, they will fall off.
Yeah. Okay. And how often do you check these tags?
I check them as often as I can, at least twice a day.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where we pre-program the transmitter tags in advance. So that requires a little bit of scientific analysis in the lead up, and Alex was kind enough to teach me how to do that this year. It was fantastic. I learned so much about how the satellites work and how the transmitters work. So when they're transmitting, I'm online checking them.
Yeah.
Even between my lectures at the University of Canterbury, I'll run back to my office and say, okay, is that one still there? Did it start moving? It's really exciting. And it's hour by hour.
So you mentioned you've got 7 migrating whales, but you've launched 9. What's happened? Do you know what's happened to the other 2?
Yeah, so one of them, we launched it and it was headed for a perfect deployment, and a wave, a whitecap, broke just before the transmitter tag was going to get deployed. And the good news on this one is that it actually, the wave deflected it so that it didn't hit the whale.
Okay.
We can see in the video footage that the transmitter tag basically hit the wave and went spiraling off.
Okay.
It's on the bottom of the ocean.
Oh.
So that one was never actually deployed.
Unretrievable.
Yeah, well, it's 46 meters of water. Now, they don't have a decompression tank in Rarotonga, so it's just a little bit too deep to go try to retrieve. But if somebody can get a decompression tank, it could save a few $1,000s and potentially recover it.
Well, there we go. Put
and
the message out there.
yeah, and the other one, it more than likely, the camera footage we have of that one's deployment, it didn't go in all the way. So it was kind of like the earring was sticking, just went in a little bit, and the majority of the earring was sticking out of the body.
Oh, I see.
So the movement through the water more than likely pulled it back out again.
Okay.
Yep. So it lasted for about a day and a half. We still got some interesting results off of it.
Yeah.
But it only lasted a day and a half. All the other ones are still going. It's just great.
So what was your most memorable moment from your time in Rarotonga this year?
Yeah, I have so many, but the most memorable moment was probably seeing a week-old newborn, a baby. So this is what they do in Rarotonga. The mothers, the pregnant females come to give birth, and the males show up to help create the next generation. So they're breeding and giving birth in the tropical waters. They don't feed in the tropical waters. But the most memorable thing was seeing this, 10-foot long, pure white underbelly just hanging out of the surface of the water, slapping his pectoral fins. He's basically just splashing around in his bathtub.
Yeah.
But he's doing it on his back. Like his nose was under the water. He was just having a good old time just splashing around. It was really neat to see that behavior. So that's my most memorable moment.
I also hear you were the chief photographer as well.
Everybody has a camera. We're trying to collect as much data as possible. So GoPros on the helmets. We wear the helmets for the health and safety reasons, and the helmet also gives you a nice stable platform to deploy a GoPro. So you got a camera in your hands and a GoPro on your helmet, and Abigail's in the back with the GoPro and the floating wand so we can put it under the water. Nan has her SLR camera taking with a telephoto, taking the really high resolution pictures of the dorsal fins and the flukes. There's a support boat. The support boat is doing lots of things. One of the things they're doing is recording the acoustics and the songs and the vocalizations that the whales have from a distance away. So we get skin samples from them as well. The support boat would come in and pick up some skin samples from just kind of sloughing off of the skin when the whales surface. So we're getting not just the tracking data, but we've got DNA data from the skin, we'll have acoustic data from the song, we'll have the video footage, the dorsal fin images, the fluke images, and we try to integrate all those data into one consistent story.
So it's really more than just tracking whales, you're getting a whole other bunch of information as well.
Nan does all those other things every year. She's been doing this, the fundamental whale ecology data collection for 17 years. And she's winning a Lifetime Achievement Award in New York City in October. And it's one of the greatest data sets for any cetacean population on the planet. And yes, this is one of the reasons why we go to Rarotonga to tag. It's because we have such a good platform from Nan's work over many years to say, all right, she knows these whales. We understand their lineage. We understand their basic behaviors. Let's go in and study them with respect to their movements. So it's the perfect place to do tagging.
Okay. So there are approximately only 5,000 humpback whales dispersed across Oceania. And Oceania humpback whales as a whole aren't recovering as quickly as other populations. What's your advice for our viewers who may want to help conserve these whales?
Yes, there's probably two things that people can do. One is to just become more aware. It's really easy, for us to be sitting here in Wellington and being on land and just doing regular old day-to-day human things. But these whales are out there 24/7, 365 in the ocean. So the rubbish that's blowing down the street can actually get into the ocean. And a plastic bag looks a lot like a squid. So some whales eat squid, or jellyfish, for example. Nan has actually found dead whales washed up on the beach in Rarotonga, and when she's a nurse, so when she actually does the necropsy on the dead whale, it's not uncommon to find plastic bags in the stomachs of some of these whales. So just being more aware of what we're doing, it might be out of sight, out of mind, but just that kind of general awareness and understanding that what we do on land can have an impact on the ocean is one thing. The other is, for people who are interested in supporting the research, we do this on a shoestring, to be honest. Nan has saved up for 7 years to have the money to buy these tags, and a lot of it is her own money. And there are ways to make donations through whaleresearch.org, that's Nan's foundation. So there are ways to support the research financially as well.
Okay. So before we wrap up, if you could say one thing to people about humpback whales, what would it be?
Oh goodness. One thing. One thing about humpback whales. They're emotional. And that was another one of the things that they're the joy of the baby whale splashing around in the water. The anxiety of the mother who didn't want us to be that close to her baby. You could see that she was being protective of the baby. So we stayed away and used the telephoto lens to take the pictures and didn't try to pulling any tags on either of them. They have emotions. There are young subadult males that would just hang out with us for hours. Turn the engine off, eat lunch, and there are whales just hanging out. You can look over the side, you see the white of the underbelly, you know that they're on their side looking up at you. They're just as curious about us as we are about them, and all these things tell me that there's a lot going on upstairs in the whales, and part of that is that they're emotional, and that they do feel things the same way we feel.
Well, Travis, thank you very much for talking to us today and sharing your insights from your trip.
Thank
We're
you,
all
Jamila.
eagerly waiting to see how the humpback whales progress. So our viewers too can also follow the humpback's journey on your blog. So Travis will be updating this blog each week on the migration progress of whales at yeah, I'll let you say that.
It's Megaptera 14, Megaptera 14, that is, .blogspot.co.nz. Megaptera is the genus name for humpback whale, so that's where the Megaptera comes, and 14 is just 2014.
Okay, awesome. And we'll also include a link in the description box below.
Great. Thanks, Jamila.
Cool. Thank you.